Good morning. Good morning on this Saturday, February the 4th, and welcome once more to the OBX Wave Report, where we are not quite freezing, although the temperatures outside are freezing, so I guess we could say that we are freezing here in the Outer Banks. Yeah, we're going to discuss waves, weather, a little bit of climate, maybe not a lot of climate today, mostly waves and weather. I don't know. You guys can always catch me in a climate excursion, but I think for the most part, we're going to talk about the cold snap and the strong northerly and northeasterly winds coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. And right now, for the U.S. East Coast, it's pretty classic post cold front, big Arctic high pressure system coming in, weather with a little bit of an asterisk coming from the polar vortex, which is getting smashed by warm winds coming up from the south and a warm ocean. And as a result, the cold air is getting blasted off the top of the world here in the Arctic and pushed out onto the continents in these zones of expansion, even as the warm winds come up in from the south. And we're going to have to give a huge hat tip to the climate scientists, and particularly Dr. Jennifer Francis, who has done so much research on this. Dr. Michael Mann recently done a number of studies on uh, the waviness in the jet stream and Rossby waves related to extreme weather events. So there's a climate crisis fingerprint on your cold snap. Um, yeah, believe it or not. So here in the Outer Banks, the cold snaps, not too bad, not too hard. It's in the 30s. I don't know. For me, I moved from Gaithersburg. You guys know about all this, but yeah, it's it's not too crazy cold down here for me. I don't know for like the local types. They're like, "I'm so cold." I was like, in the Northeast, it's going to be like -20, -30 some places. They're like, that's too cold. But in any case, the big old cold snap, the polar vortex excursion, whatever you want to call it, is at least here for the Outer Banks mainly going to last just for today. And then into Sunday, we're going to get a lot of warming. But right now we got the long, strong winds coming out of the north, and it's, yeah, some cold northeasterly winds blowing over those ocean waters, chopping up those waves, kicking up a bunch of froth. We got some pretty sick video of strong northeasterly winds coming in yesterday off the North Atlantic, and I think we were right when we estimated the wave heights were in the range of 3 to 5, 3 to 6 feet. So the waves did kick up quite a bit, and it's like that now on the eastern shores of the Outer Banks, the east-facing beaches. Most of the wave heights in the range of 3 to 7 feet, some places 3 to 5, some places 3 to 4. But yeah, big old strong northeasterly winds or northeasterly winds coming in off the North Atlantic and kicking up some big surf for the north and the more northern beaches and the more east-facing beaches. For the south-facing beaches, it's all blown out. It's 0 to 2 feet if you're lucky, 2 feet. It's yeah, you'd be very lucky to find a 2 foot swell down there in the south-facing beaches. With the swell just heading straight on out to shore from those south-facing beaches. The swells heading on south. Maybe get it in Florida, but okay. Um, yeah, so the big old cold fronts come through the big polar vortex excursion. I said we weren't going to talk climate. We're talking climate. I should have said we're just going to talk climate. Okay. But you can see, like as I said yesterday, you can see those classic lines of condensation and cloud formation coming off the ocean now, almost like a brushed over the ocean, and that's because the ocean is warm and then the air hitting it is cold, and you get that condensation and cloud formation down there near the ocean surface in those warmer airs. That's also a telltale of a very cold snap in the satellite picture. And it's just a beautiful geocolor image of the East Coast today as the sun rises. And then looking out west, we got a little disturbance here over Texas and Oklahoma and parts of the central US. And then for the west coast, we got this storm coming in, pretty classic winter style storm rolling into Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, and up into British Columbia here. It could be stormy out there, particularly as you get up more toward Seattle and British Columbia region. All right, so let's see. I do want to show you some of these temperatures. Temperatures are cray right now. I know I just said cray, God. Pretty soon I'm gonna start like modeling makeup, maybe? I don't know. Not. All right, so yeah, the temperatures are nuts. I mean, they're cold up there in the Northeast. It's down here in the Outer Banks, you can see that fringe of the freezing line right there with the blue, and we're just right near it. We're right at the fringe of freezing. But out here in the Northeast, that polar vortex excursion, that center of Arctic cold has been blasted off into Canada. Pretty obviously, you can see that big old swatch of purple there, and the Arctic up here is not quite so purple. So yeah, most of the cold is there over Canada, over the continent, blasted off the central Arctic Ocean region as those warm winds blow up from the south over Iceland and Svalbard, smashing that polar vortex, squeezing the cold air out onto the continent, and squeezing it all the way down to the northeast US. So let's look at some of these crazy temperatures. Yeah, so right now, and this is global forecast system model. This is just a general, relatively broad brush, much closer to actual temperatures, but this is, still a model. You'll have to get like the specific local readings to confirm this, but this is basically what we're seeing. So negative 33 degrees here in parts of, looks like New Hampshire. Yeah, negative 33 degrees in parts of northern New Hampshire and Vermont, negative 30 degrees in parts of northern Maine. And then even as we get on toward the coast here in northern Maine, negative 28 degrees, that's crazy, negative 25. Um, and then even into, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, southern Maine, negative upper, yeah, negative 28, negative 29. Down in Massachusetts, negative 20. Boston area maybe like in the range of negative 18. Oh, hold on, this is degrees Celsius. I am sorry, I am giving you the wrong readings. Let's start over. Okay, northern Vermont and New Hampshire, negative 26 degrees Fahrenheit. I was giving you Celsius. Northern Maine, negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Down toward the coast, I was like, hold on, these temperatures are a little too cold. Even for this. All right. Yeah, down to the coast, negative 15 degrees, negative 15, negative 16 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 14, coastal Maine. And then down into the Boston area right now, about negative 1 degrees Fahrenheit, still very cold. Into Rhode Island and Connecticut. Oh, yeah, negative 5. Oof, cold. New York City, 8 degrees. Yeah, getting above the 0 degree Fahrenheit mark. And yeah, out into sections of more western New York, negative 3 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit. But as I get up into the north, it gets pretty darn cold, negative 27 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, super cold. Let's go ahead and look at Washington, D.C., old stomping grounds, about 15, up in Gaithersburg, about 13, so really cold. And then as we get up just to the north of the St. Lawrence River into Canada, it gets nasty at negative 37 degrees Fahrenheit. What the ever living hell? Froze over because the Arctic warmed up. Yep. And that's, yeah, a basic summary of some of the cold readings up there in the Northeast. It's really cold. It's not going to be as cold tomorrow. Let's go ahead and just flip this map, flip the switch here, and show you what it's going to look like as the high pressure system moves off the East Coast. That clockwise flow of the high pressure brings up that warm, moist air from the Gulf and starts pushing that cold back. It is still cold, expected to be cold tomorrow morning in parts of Maine and the Northeast here. But the warm flow of air does start to move in on Sunday morning and then progresses through the day. And as that high pressure system moves off the East Coast, here in the Outer Banks, it's expected to be, actually, hold on, this is still today. Hold on, let's get to tomorrow. 1 second. I was like, hold on, this is not quite right. There we go. So we get the high pressure system off the coast by early tomorrow, bringing in those warmer airs. And then it moves further on off the coast and causes the temperature here in the Outer Banks to rise up into the 50s and into the 60s in some locations likely for the highs in the southern beaches. So like a big, huge difference from this is, tomorrow's forecast. And even up in the Northeast, I mean, yeah, temperature is crazy cold still, but nowhere near as crazy cold. About 20 to 30 degrees warmer there, and 20 to 30 degrees warmer here. And then with the Arctic air getting smashed back up toward the Hudson Bay area, although for the Arctic, the high Arctic, it's still warmer over the Arctic Ocean than it is over the continent. So still, and a lot of warm winds blowing over Iceland and Svalbard here with the polar vortex getting smashed. All right, so that's just a general assessment of like the weather conditions. Let's look at the waves. Actually, hold on. Before we do, we're going to look at the infrared satellite shots showing the cold cloud tops. And you can see the front way off, and you can see the snow on the ground here in the Northeast. That's what's mostly reflecting. Although there are a few clouds sweeping on through. Got that disturbance in the middle of the country and the other storm heading into the West Coast. National Weather Service radar, we got some precipitation showing up over the Great Lakes, and I guess in the form of like lake effect snow type thing, or just a general impulse. Not much in the way of precipitation associated with clouds over the central U.S. and some showers over the northwest and storms coming in off the Pacific with some gale warnings up on the Pacific coast and small craft advisories mostly for the U.S. East Coast here in the Outer Banks, and then gale warnings up near the Northeast here in Boston and then parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, it looks like New York. Okay, and then looking at the forecast for storminess over the coming days, looking at NOAA's quantitative prediction forecast, we're going to put on our serious weather nerd hats. And we're going to see the most likely region for heavy precipitation is out here near Seattle and then up in British Columbia, with storms coming in off the west coast, providing more typical rains for parts of the west. Although Southern California here has been pretty remarkably dry, which with this consistency is starting to get concerning. You want to actually see a little bit more moisture coming in there to Southern California. And this region of the Southwest, which is just under a decadal drought, also driven by climate change. And then the region for stormy weather in the east is focusing on East Texas, parts of eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana, although it doesn't look too crazy. And then off the East Coast looks like a tendency for storm formation, looking at NOAA QPF. Okay, I said we were going to talk about waves, and we are. So the big cold blast has come in. We got more northeasterly winds than I was expecting. I don't know, maybe I misread the forecast, but the winds were coming more out of the northeast than northwest. And so we got more waves. And so here at Jeanette's Pier on Nag's Head, right now we've got the strong northeasterly winds coming in with a onshore flow here, and a big old swell coming in at 3 to 6 feet, with a primary swell at 8 seconds and a secondary swell at 9 seconds. Winds, I talked about them before, coming in out of the northeast at 21 miles per hour, and that's an onshore flow. Air temperatures are cold, 30 degrees, but maybe not as cold as expected. I saw some predictions for 27 or 29, but still cold. Ocean water temperature is still warmer than normal with those, or I said warmer than normal, still warmer than last week with those winds coming off the ocean, pushing the Gulf Stream in a little bit at 53 degrees, although I don't know who would want to go out there right now. We probably have some hardy souls that would. And Weather conditions for today expected to be sunny, windy, not getting much warmer with a high expected to be 34. It's going to warm up tomorrow into the 50s, but today it's going to be cold. Okay, so let's head on down the coast. So most of the eastern facing beaches of the Outer Banks have a similar story with waves in the range of 3 to 5, 3 to 4 feet. That's certainly the case over here at Esterns and at Rodanth, um, and down at Avon, 3 to 4, 3 to 5 foot waves. And they get down on into Buxton. We get the big wave spot for today. Big old Buxton again, with waves in the range and swells in the range of 4 to 7 feet. The primary swell coming in at 8 seconds and a secondary at 7. Winds out of north-northeast at 24 miles per hour. It's a cross shore flow here, maybe a slight onshore component. Air temperature is warmer down there at Buxton, but not warm by any stretch at 35 degrees. And ocean water temperature is much warmer at 66, with those prevailing easterly winds over the past week pushing in the Gulf Stream, getting those warmer sea surface temperatures. Weather conditions are expected to be sunny today, windy, with those northerly and northeasterly winds. Expected high of 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I did decide to pick a south-facing beach. Most of the swell out there is getting blown offshore. But for Billy Mitchell, waves in the range of 0 to 2 feet with those strong north winds coming in, northeast winds. Primary swell is kind of rippling through at 7 seconds, and we've got another 7 second swell that's heading offshore. And that 7 second swell is actually pretty big in the range of about 6 feet, but it's not hitting the beaches. It's heading down toward Florida. Um, Wind speeds 24 miles per hour out of the north-northeast in here at Billy Mitchell. That is offshore. Air temperatures are 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperatures at 65. Weather conditions today, sunny at Billy Mitchell, windy, expected high of 39 degrees. And that's the warm spot for our predictions. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the long range. We're not going to spend too much time on this. This has been the case for most of the long range forecasts. It's expected to be much warmer than normal over the 8 to 14 day time period in the east as the polar vortex smash moves on out and we get the prevailing highs over the ocean, pulling up the warmer air. And then in the west, it's supposed to be colder with a possible battleground between these extremes in the central US. And the resulting possible battleground in the central US producing potential severe weather and above normal precipitation. It is worth noting, though, that there's a little switch here in the 2 week forecast showing potential for severe weather here in Southern California. So I said that Southern California needed some rain. They might get it. Hopefully, it's not from an atmospheric river and a bomb cyclone, but we'll see. This is starting to look um, like something we might need to keep an eye on here in the 8 to 14 day time frame. All right. For the storm prediction center, it's pretty calm for the U.S. And no real major thunderstorm activities visible. I'm going to have to reset this map here from our tropical tidbits by Levi Cohen. Check him out over on Twitter. And right now for the global forecast system model, you see that cold, big, burly, high pressure system heading down from the Arctic, sitting right now over the mid-Atlantic, and then some stormy weather out west with some lake effect snows. I'm going to go ahead and run the model so you guys can see what's expected to happen. High moves off, you get a little storm offshore, get some more lake effect snows and storms. Storm forms from the Gulf, smashes on through the Northeast. Another storm forms, and then like central eastern portion of the U.S. sweeps on through, another high, and then we're getting these impulses of rainy conditions sweeping on down out of the Pacific, and then in the later portion of the model, everything just looks a little bit stormier as storms tend to develop over Texas and sweep on through the eastern and northeastern U.S., and storms tend to sweep in more across the west coast, with the tail end of the model showing another storm forming for the US East and another one for the West. This model is not showing anything crazy as far as like bomb cyclones or anything like that. So that's good. All right, now looking at the wave models, and this will be hopefully wrapping up the OBX wave report right now. I do want to note that this big polar vortex excursion that's bringing those winds and cold airs out of the north for the East Coast is on a flipped script for the central North Atlantic, with strong warm winds dredging up from the subtropics and shooting all the way up into the Arctic. And we've got big old significant wave heights here off of Iceland in the range of 30 to 33 feet, and then very large significant wave heights ranging about, looks like maybe about 2,000 miles to the south. That is pretty crazy. And let's get down here into the Outer Banks. And we've got those swells coming in the range of about 7 feet in the near offshore environment by tomorrow. Oop, hold on, let's get to now. I guess, is it not going to advance? Oh, here we go. Um, by tomorrow, we've got near offshore waves in the range of 3, maybe 3.5 feet. So it's going to get tamped down. Might be pretty glassy. We might get some interesting waves on shore. They could line up well since the swell is coming in from the northeast. We'll have to look at it. Then into Monday, the swell builds up, and this is going to be a warmer day. Swell orientation is expected to shift to the southeast, though, and the 3 to 5 foot range. Not too windy, so it might be a nice glassy, fun day on Monday with warmer air. Might get out in the ocean with you guys. And then getting on into Tuesday, expected wave heights again, pretty decent in the range of 4 to 5 feet. No major winds, so it might be pretty glassy as well. Could be some good waves over the next couple of days, good, like well-formed rideable waves. And then on into Wednesday again, just looking kind of nice, looking kind of glassy, 3 to 4 foot waves oriented toward the beaches. Warmer conditions, gentle winds might be rideable. So yeah, looking kind of cool for waves. All right, and last of all, I want to look at the West Coast. I did talk a little bit about the North Atlantic. Right now for the West Coast, waves are in the range of 2 to 3, maybe some 4 footers in here. It looks like mostly 2 to 3 foot waves for the Southern California region. And then for Central California on north, about 7 to 8 feet in the near coastal environment. We're getting more storms coming off the west coast, so the waves will tend to be better, but nothing too crazy. And as we finish the wave report for today, I just want to show you what happens with these warm winds blowing on up toward the Arctic, driving huge waves in the central North Atlantic, and then running up east of Iceland, south and east of Iceland, and then toward Svalbard and the ice sheet with those big old swells rolling up from those warm winds in the range of 18 feet, smashing into the ice sheet, coming up as a part of that whole system that's putting the squeeze on the polar vortex over here at the surface. And if you want to learn more about the polar vortex, go check out Jennifer Francis over on the Twitters and Michael Mann on the Twitters, and I did recently highlight a fantastic article from CNN about the extreme cold snaps in the polar vortex by Laura Pattinson. Go check out Laura Pattinson and her reporting on the polar vortex. So thank you for joining me for the OBX Wave Report, where we discuss all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle, and where we ask you every day, because we need to ask, we have to ask, we need your help to please do everything you can to help defend our beautiful coastlines from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning. The primary action right now that we need is a rapid transition to clean energy, which will tamp down the heating impact in the atmosphere. It will reduce the forcing caused by fossil fuel burning by taking away that forcing. And it will forge a path towards sustainability, both for our coastlines and for our world. So thank you for joining me again. If you get on the waves today in the ocean, it is cold, you are crazy. My hat's off to you. I won't actually take it off. But tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, looking good, possibly for the Outer